In 2021, I did a video talking about a budget night vision build, and that is a bit of an oxymoron. You know, night vision is a piece of technology that has historically been very expensive and generally was reserved to the military, and over the last decade has become increasingly popular with hunters and also with civilian enthusiasts who are interested in being prepared and becoming more militarized. Now, there were a lot of people on that video who were unhappy with how much money I was spending on my budget loadout, which was a brand new PVS-14, an ops core helmet, nice hearing protection, and the rifle was also fairly nice. Well, it was an arrow with a suppressor, and I can't remember the laser I was using, but it was a relatively nice loadout, and there were some people saying, that's not as cheap as you can actually go. You can do this thing over here with a PVS-7, you can do this thing with green tubes, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And the answer is yes, you can do budget night vision extremely cheaply if you're willing to give up on some things. So for the last few months, I saw some comments on that video and I thought, you know what, let's revisit the idea and let's try to build an actual true budget night vision setup, budget loadout, and see just how cheap we can get it. And I have some components here that I shopped around and have been purchasing over the last few months to build the cheapest night vision setup possible. Now, before I get into the individual components, there were some parameters that I had to work within because I'm not going to go out there and buy the special edition Modern Warfare 2 night vision, digital night vision unit from 2009. While that would technically count as a night vision device, kind of, I think we would all agree that that is not something that I'm going to be taking to the range, driving with, shooting with, doing any sort of rigorous activity. So there is a standard that I have to hit for the equipment to meet, you know, to even use the equipment and have the equipment. So a couple of the parameters that I had is I wanted to purchase everything on eBay. I wanted to purchase everything used. So I shopped around for a while trying to scoop various items, night vision mounts, the actual shroud itself and helmets. But the main piece and the most difficult piece was the night vision device itself. So I texted our friend Scott from Nocturnality, who produces night vision for us. We give him specs. He produces the units for us under those specs, and then we sell them, and we've sold a lot of night vision. And I said, hey dude, I'm trying to build the cheapest night vision setup possible. Help me with a tube setup. And we talked back and forth. Should it be green? Should it be a white phos? You know, how blemmed out can it be? How crazy can it be? And I told him, and we discussed, I said, hey, I think it needs to be a white phos tube. White phos tubes are going to be the future in the next few years. It's basically what everything on the market is going to be. It's what most people are trying to buy. I want the cheapest white phos tube possible, and I want it to be Gen 3. I'm not trying to do a Gen tube, not trying to do green. Yes, you could probably get down to like $1,200 with one of those. I'm trying to do the most budget device that is usable in most conditions. So that is the parameter that I gave him, and he came back with a night vision tube, white phos tube that is very blemmed in the center of the tube. And he also put it in a housing that is 20 years old that uses AA's. And he was able to get this device down to $1,700. So for $1,700, I have a PVS-14 and an ancient housing with a blemmed out white phos tube. It's Gen 3, and this should allow me to do everything just fine, but we will find out. As a fun note, this is a housing from Green Mountain Rangers. Some of you guys will know who that is. So it's actually kind of funny that this is, and it's also a testament that when you purchase night vision equipment, you know, a lot of it lasts for a very long time, and it's going to circulate in the market. It's going to get moved around. So at some point, this owner sold this housing to Scott. He had it floating around within his company, and now I'm the recipient of this. And at some point, I'll sell this to someone, and this housing will keep getting used. It'll probably get to 30 or 40 years old before it finally gets destroyed, run over by a truck or something like that. But as far as the other things, the next part was the helmet. So the helmet generally is the second most important thing after the night vision device is some sort of way of wearing it. And I wanted to go with a old school skate helmet. I didn't want to go buy an ops core. I didn't really even want to buy a Chinese ripoff ops core. So I shopped around online for a ProTac. They're sometimes kind of hard to find, especially the military ones. And this helmet right here cost 15 bucks. That's right, 15 buckaroos. There was also some shipping, looks like $15 for shipping, so $30 plus tax, $31, something like that, is what I paid for this helmet. Now, unfortunately, when I got this helmet, it had crackers in it. It was disgusting, it was nasty, and I was like, yeah, I could try to modify this helmet to work, but I'm actually gonna go try something different. And the main reason I wanted to try something different instead of this helmet is it has no sort of rear attachment support, BOA type system. So I looked around for something a little bit more unconventional that you don't see people doing, and that is a snowboard helmet. This helmet cost $30 with $7 of shipping, so about $39 once you factor in tax. And it has better form factor. It has a BOA in the back, which should be really nice. Keeping the helmet nice and tight to the head as I'm running around and doing stuff really fast. But I am going to have to make a lot of modifications to this. I'm going to have to remove these, pads up here, and I'm going to have to somehow get the night vision device to attach. And what I got for that, which is the cheapest option, is the standard Rotos night vision bracket, which typically goes on the ACH helmet. There's a single screw in the center. It hooks underneath to your ballistic helmet typically. So I'm gonna have to adapt this to the front of the snowboard helmet like so. And that should allow me to position my PVS 14 on my head, and it should work okay. But we'll see. I'm gonna have to do a lot of modification. As far as the night vision mount, the cheapest option is, of course, the Rotos Rhino mount, which you all are probably very familiar with. I picked this one up for $30 plus some shipping, $6 of shipping, so $37 with tax, something like that. And then, of course, a bayonet-style J-arm, which is going to interface with this. And then this is going to screw on, and that will give me my night vision setup. And the arm was only $35 with free shipping. So $36 with tax. And I also picked up some helmet pads because I figure, hey, I'm probably going to have to adapt some traditional helmet pads to the inside of my helmet to get it to fit properly and be comfortable. Maybe I won't need to use these. I'm not sure. Just kind of bought them preemptively. And these were $12 with free shipping. And then the craziest thing, the last two items, the electronics for the helmet. Hearing protection that attaches to the helmet is very cool. It's super rad. People, are all about that, and they try to do that with different kinds of setups. And some of those setups are very expensive. $1,200 for electronic ear pro that go onto your helmet with down leads for communications equipment. And I thought, hey, what's the cheapest? I can add ear pro to the side of the helmet, and that is the set of Peltors for construction helmets. This was $18 with free shipping, so $19 with tax, something like that. I hate all this tax crap. Just trying to be, very upfront with what this cost. So these were dirt cheap. I have no screws for these, so I'm going to have to source those myself. But I have some holes here to attach this to the helmet. They could swivel out of the way. That's pretty cool. They also lock, just like, Peltors, so that's pretty rad. They're not amplified, so these are going to function like traditional hearing protection. So I'm not going to be able to hear ambient noises very well, but this is the cheapest option available to mount on a helmet, and that was the goal. Something that will protect my hearing as I am training, although it's not necessarily going to let me hear people sneaking up on me. So these are going to attach somehow on the side of the helmet. I'm going to have to play around with that. And I'll paint them up. I'll get them to match. We'll make it look all fancy. And hopefully they work out just fine. The next electronic device is the laser. So the laser, if you are running a laser with a single tubed night vision device, which I highly recommend because shooting passively with a single tube is very difficult. I don't recommend it. I needed to get a laser. Now, Sightmark has been making these really fun comments all around social media, and they've invited us out to their facility. And they have a new marketing person who's doing a very good job. So I thought, hey, let's go ahead and test a Sightmark laser. They have a couple options. They've got one in the $200 range. They've got one, I think, that's in the $400 range. It's a little bit nicer. And so I went out and purchased their $200 option. It was $210. This is the Sightmark Low Pro Combo Flashlight Viz and IR. So I think it has a laser, I think it has Viz and IR, and this was $210, and it's kind of heavy, which is actually good. It means it was probably somewhat durable and maybe will hold zero. But just because it's heavy does not make it expensive. So we're gonna run this. It does have a white light, it looks like, so maybe I can skate by without spending money on a white light and just run this. So we'll see. But 210 for a laser device. We'll see if it holds zero. We'll see if it holds zero well. I also have a Homo gear as a backup if this doesn't work out. But we will see. We will see what happens. So now I need to go DIY all this, try to build it together, paint it up, see if it works. If something doesn't work in the process, then you all will know, and I will go and purchase the additional items necessary to get this helmet to work. But I really want to make the snowboard helmet work because I think this is going to be a superior option to your normal bump and skate helmets. Oh yeah, we good. All right, so we've got it moved up now. It's way more snug. It's actually catching where it needs to. I'm still concerned that the angle is too athletic. It's too streamlined, and that's gonna put the night vision awkwardly in position with my face. But that's where tilting the helmet and playing around, you know, I might be able to make it work. Now, next, hearing protection. The ears are on. They can lock into place. We have a way to mount night vision. It is coming along. I want to go ahead, before I start trying this on, I'm going to add pads to the inside. I have my pad kit right here. I'm going to put more Velcro on the inside. I'm going to say getting all this installed was a pain. Now, I didn't have the best tools to do it, but DIY stuff can sometimes be very frustrating. So let's do the pads. All right, so I've got the pads placed. I've got two smalls in the front. Normally, there's one giant one, so you don't have a seam running down the center, but we'll see how this does. The two square ones directly in the bottom, the big round in the back on the boa, and then two smalls on the sides for comfort. But now, to try it out. This is a size large. Typically, that's what I wear. It's decent. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It weighs nothing. It's comfy. It's pretty good. It's pretty stable. I can't hear because these are really good. All right, the moment of truth. Okay, this is decent. And then the lever, this forward lever. There's a lot of space between this and my eye, but it will fit eye pro and I will be able to see this. So the cant of the helmet is going to allow me to shoot. That is cool. The distance is more than I probably want, but I don't think there's much I can do, but it should work. So, and that's with the helmet kind of like this. I didn't realize I had it down. Once I add a counterweight, that's where it maxes out before it touches the helmet. All right, so I have some time to continue working on the SPED helmet. And the next thing I want to do is place my loop Velcro on the helmet in the different places where I want flag patches because I'm trying to make this helmet cool, right? You know, I could use it the way it is, but why not throw some IR, you know, reflective flags on here, which is pretty cool. I have an SBL lanyard that I'm going to be using to retain the night vision device. Another important thing when you're running something like this PVS 14 or a device like this is it's going to wobble around, especially on some of this old military issue stuff. It's going to move around and be kind of jank. So it's important that when I have the device mounted, I have some shot cord or something that is stabilizing the device to my head so that it's eliminating some of that slop. So that's what the SBL is going to be for. I want it Velcroed here in the top. The shot cord is going to come around with this little hook that's included in the kit. It's going to attach into the PVS 14, and then this shot cord loop back here will probably attach to the back of the helmet somewhere just for additional retention, even though it's probably not needed, and I should be good to go. The other thing I need to do is figure out a counterweight. This helmet weighs absolutely nothing. In fact, let's find out what this weighs right now. So this helmet weighs, with the ear pro, with the shroud, it weighs 24.5 ounces. So that would be the milliliters, no thanks. Grams, no thanks. That's kgs, where's pounds? Okay, it is 1 pound, 8 ounces. So it weighs practically nothing, which is pretty wild. I mean, this is the lightest helmet I've ever laid hands on. And so once I add the PVS 14, which this weighs, come back here. This weighs 1 pound, 2 ounces. So this is doubling the weight of the helmet. Now, what I could do to save money, and instead of buying some fancy counterweight pouch, is I could just use a pistol magazine with some bullets or a bunch of rocks. I could literally tape a bunch of rocks to the helmet. And you know what? That's what we're going to do, because that's super cheap. It's super budget. So all I need to have to go with me to the range is some 100-mile-an-hour tape, which is going to match the helmet once I paint it anyway. I'm just going to run a strip back here, and then I'll just find nice little flat rocks, and I'm just going to insert them back there. And it should hold on pretty good. I can always add more tape, and that will be a very budget counterweight that does the job. So, and I can always throw the rocks when I'm bored, so that'll be cool. But let's go ahead and place the Velcro. The SBL comes with one patch, which I will use to put on top. It's kind of at an angle on purpose. And then I'm going to use this tan Velcro, because I ran out of black actually. Sick. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mask off the hearing protection, and not all the yellow, because I want to hit all that really hard because I want to get rid of that. Honestly, if I were being really conscientious, I would paint this and then I would throw tape or gaff tape or something around the yellow, because the paint will wear away and then show the yellow. The main thing I want to actually mask off is the gel cup. So now I think we're ready to paint the setup. And what I think I want to do I want to paint the rhino arm? I think I do. I think I actually do want to paint it. I think that could be kind of cool. So we're going to paint that. This is already painted fairly decently. And actually, I want to go ahead and do a test, because I have not, believe it or not, tested this device yet. It works! Oh my gosh! Holy crap, that's a lot of BLEMS. It's like a bunch of insects. Oh, this is going to be... I mean, I'll make this work, but holy crap. Adjustable gain though, based, and I could still challenge. Is there a IR? Yes, there is. So I can do challenges. Yes, there is. I can see it. A lot of BLEMS. A lot of BLEMS in this device. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot going on. But we're going to make it work anyway because there's some things about BLEMS that are not as bad as people think. But we'll talk about that later. But let's go ahead and get this painted up so that it looks a little bit more practical. Although the snowboarding helmet is actually pretty solid, the color it is. The spray paint, though, I think will help some of the sheen. And I think it will just bring all this together a little bit more. So the next thing that we need to do is actually hit the range with this and try it out. I could try this out just running around, you know, after dark, but I already know this works well enough that I'm just going to go straight to the range and start getting reps in and trying out the Sightmark laser. And like I mentioned, I have a Somo gear that I've had for a while as a backup, so another budget laser option, which is kind of cool. Although I already know it doesn't stay zeroed, so that kind of sucks. But I mainly want to try this one out and just see how good this is, both the white light option and the Viz laser, which this only has a Viz laser, but for training purposes and being budget, that's okay. Like, that's fine. That's just what we're gonna do. And you guys will be able to see that better on the video anyway. So now I need to go find a cardboard box, something that is nice and budget, that is appropriate for all of this equipment. All right, so what I'm doing right now is I'm doing what is called a converging zero. So I am doing this without shooting because you don't have to if you have a zero red dot. I am looking at an object, which in this case is a USPSA target at 80 meters, 90 meters, something like that. And I'm then aligning my laser with the dot because this is zeroed. If this goes to here, then this should be zeroed too. These are not good lighting conditions for this, but this should work close enough for government work. So let us find out where we are. Laser quality sucks, so it's all over the target. So it's really hard to see, like it's splashing. It's so big. It's like a very large MOA red dot when it's hitting the target. So it's not clean like a military laser. Like when you shine it up close, it's like, oh, it's, you know, it looks pretty good. But as you get further away, the dispersion, it just opens up and it starts to get dirty and you start to see like artifacts like around it, and it's big. It's like a big MOA red dot. And once you get to the target, it's like, yeah, I can see it on there, but it's not pinpoint accuracy. So that's definitely going to affect shooting with nods. But again, it should be fine for up close and basic training. But we shall see about that. right, so something I totally forgot about is because this laser only has vis for laser, I am seeing that with my right eye. And it's really trippy to see the laser with your left nod, your PVS 14 thing, while also seeing vis. And as you try to like put the two images together, because your brain's like, something's wrong, you'll see the green moving all around. It's very distracting. So I'm shutting my right eye to do this training because the laser is way too distracting when I can see the laser through the night vision, which looks like an IR laser. It's just a big like beam and it's blooming, and my green laser. So I may have to run the Somo laser because that actually has IR modes to get the full effect of training with this device. But that's okay. We'll keep shooting this a little bit and see what happens. All right, so this is the YHM with the Sightmark laser. So far, it seems to be shooting pretty good. I'm getting A-zone hits. It seems to be staying zeroed for all this training that I'm doing, and I'm getting better at shooting with all this as well. So it's allowing me to train and do things. So that's cool. So activating the laser. Whichever button you touch on the laser device last is what the pressure switch is programmed for. So if I touch the white light, which is the front, then the laser will be the thing that turns on. If I touch both buttons, so this is white light, and then I touch laser, then it will shoot both at once with the pressure switch. So now I'm going to toggle through. I'll hit white light again on its own. This is on max. They have different modes. So this is mid. So this is max. This is mid. This is nav. So it's a very dim mode for like, you're checking hinges on a door, or something like that. You're like, what's going on here? So nav light, it's kind of cool. The next one is IR. Yeah, I can't see that with the naked eye. The next one is IR max. Holy crap. Yeah, that's actually really good. It's quite focused too. All right, so I have the device that I've been using hooked up to a adapter that is connected to an iPhone, so you guys can see exactly what I see with the tube. And what I have been shooting with is this right here. Now, obviously, I have it unfocused, but yes, the BLEMS are positioned right in the center of the tube, and I've been shooting through all of that. Now, you'll see that with the night vision not focused, they stand out like a sore thumb. And the camera is not going to do justice. Like, they actually are going to look more detailed for me seeing through the night vision instead of all these lenses that are being used to film. Now, when I focus on the target, you will start to see that the BLEMS kind of disappear. You don't really notice them as much because now we have something down there to look at. What you have to understand about BLEMS, and I'm going to say this because I've been running and gunning with it, with this tube, and I haven't seen the BLEMS once. Like, I've not seen them in the middle of a drill. I have not seen them while I'm doing things. I'm looking right through them. And what BLEMS are like floaters in your eyes. I have a bunch of floaters after my grenade accident. I have extra, which kind of sucks, but typically you see them under certain lighting conditions. Light, you know, you start looking left to right, they move around, but the human brain after a while filters them away and you stop noticing them. And BLEMS in a night vision tube is exactly like that. If I just sit here and pay attention and I'm looking through the night vision and I see them, I will see them plain as day. But the second I start doing things and shooting, so like I was starting here, I jump in, I shoot this guy, I check here, nothing. I shoot this guy, I hit this guy, I move to here, him, this guy really fast. I'm processing all of this information and I'm not seeing the BLEMS. They're like floaters in my eye that I don't see. And you'll see as I transition from different lighting conditions, you don't really see them as well. Sometimes they show up and they're contrasted. And then other times you just don't see them while you're moving and shooting targets. So if you have BLEMS in the center, it's not necessarily the end of the world. I've never shot with a tube this bad. With BLEMS like this, my PPS 31s have a little one down in the bottom. Sometimes I notice it, but when I'm doing things, I don't. I don't think my panos have any BLEMS, just like some little dusts. But that is what makes this tube $1,700. But it's still white phos, it's still good definition. I can still see things pretty well. I have a lot of light pollution though right now. But I can still see stuff and there's no moon. We have zero illum. We were supposed to have it and we didn't do our astrology very well. There's a target down there I could see next to that vehicle. Very barely. I know you can see it better in the camera compared to what I see on the iPhone screen. But this is a $1,700 night vision tube. And there is a lot of light in here right now. There's no light in here. All right, so passive shooting with a PVS 14 sucks because like I said, you're already looking through one tiny tube and now you're trying to align it with another tiny tube and it is not a fun experience, which is why I'd recommend lasers if this is all you have. However, I have a full-size piece of steel at about 80-ish meters. This laser unit has IR output, just like flashlight, IR light. So I should be able to passive aim with this tube by shoulder bumping with the stock retracted. And this also allows me to activate the laser better because my arm isn't too extended, although in this case it's very extended. So, in a static position, not running around, not doing anything, yeah, I can technically hit a target that I know where it is, and it's decently contrasted. It's actually pretty bad, but I know where it is. Like, yeah, technically I can do it. Is that a practical application or expectation of this device, this optic, and these lighting conditions on like a moving target? No. No, this sucks. If anything, I just need to do this. That I can do controllably with consistency every time. So I think that about sums up the testing and the playing around with the super budget poor man night vision setup. All in all, the helmet itself actually performed quite well. My two rocks that I placed on the back with tape as the ultimate poor person, but also ingenious idea of taking a couple rocks and some tape, which costs virtually nothing, and slapping it on the back of a helmet to act as a counterweight, actually worked quite well. If I were to add a different set of night vision on here, I would just simply add more rocks, add more tape, and I would be good to go. So this actually worked super well. I found 2 rocks that were roughly the same weight as the night vision device, taped them on, ran around, and had no head issues for the last few hours training with this. It doesn't weigh anything. I mean, this helmet weighs virtually nothing. Even starting out, the skateboard helmet weighs absolutely nothing, or this is a snowboard helmet, I should say. And the Ear Pro, since they don't have electronics built in, are also super lightweight. So all in all, just an extremely, the lightest helmet that I have ever trained with and ever ran around with. Now, the night vision device. Now, you guys saw how blemmed out this device was. And, you know, to many of you guys looking at this, you're probably like, man, that's the worst thing ever. I could never buy something like that. I could never, you know, be seen using something like that, or I would not want to invest money in something like that. And the funny thing is, for all the drills that I shot, although, you know, we have to remember this is on a flat range, and I did have some, you know, artificial light that we were using so you guys could see what I'm doing. But if you're actually like coming out and training and you're trying to be proficient, you're trying to practice, and you're actually focusing on the work and getting things done, you're not going to notice something like BLEMS in a night vision tube like this. Now, if they were much larger and they were huge black splotches and they were actually covering up like information that you should be able to see because you're already restricted to like this very small toilet paper tube you're looking through, like, yes, that could be a problem. And I've seen photos of really bad BLEMS online where it's like, yeah, now I'm losing like stuff that I need to be able to see. But the BLEMS in this device were not that bad. I was able to run around, shoot, like see points on the ground that I need to move to, look out, look for the target, see the target as soon as I break the threshold of this Connex box or one of the wooden plywood boxes that we have, and it was just fine. I was able to shoot. I was able to score very good hits, even with the weapons and the laser devices I was using, and I was able to have a productive training session, even though we are filming, and that kind of like takes away from some training stuff. So the question is, if you're someone who wants to get into night vision, is something like this viable for training, or is it viable for doing more serious stuff? And the answer is yes. Something like this for training absolutely works. A budget rifle that maybe isn't as reliable or as functional as something that is a proven system, you could still take to the range and still train with. If the gun goes down at the range, your training day is done, but you're not going to die. So like, it's not really that big of a deal. Now, the question is this a helmet setup that I would want to do anything operational with or run around with for days or weeks? And the answer is, it's better than nothing. But no, I would not want to run around with this for a prolonged period of time. First off, I don't have amplified Ear Pro. The helmet itself, I would want to repad because it's not tight enough to the head to be super stable. And the night vision device, it's good. Like, I can do things with it. But I want binos. I want something a little bit better. And it would be nice to not have any BLEMS, although the BLEMS are not the end of the world with this particular device. But the helmet itself and the ergonomics and the hearing protection, things like that, I would definitely want to change out for something that is a little bit more durable, a little more stable. Even all the mounting infrastructure I have right here, the bayonet mount, the rhino mount, this shroud that's been drilled into this helmet, the entire thing wobbles and moves around a lot, which again is why a piece of shot cord like this is so important. This is what saved me from losing field of view with my night vision like all night. This kept constant pressure on the device. Once I had this set to where my eye was, it didn't really move around. If I didn't have this, this would be flying all over the place. So definitely look into getting, if you're running a PVS 14 especially, some sort of shot cord suspension retention device. It can be from our company, it can be from another company. I don't care, just make sure you have something. So overall, the helmet worked quite well. Now, when it comes to the rifles and the laser, the Sightmark laser in particular, there's some interesting stuff going on. First off, when you're in the IR mode and you hit the button to turn on the IR light, it flickers white light briefly. Just because of probably poor circuitry and coding and all that good stuff that I don't fully understand. There's just some things with this device that I would not want to rely on for anything super serious. Now, it seems like it was retaining zero fairly well, at least for everything I did tonight. I was able to hit steel at 80 meters. I was able to shoot paper. I was able to get, like, I have something like 70% A-zone hits on everything. And shooting with night vision and lasers, like, it's frankly quite easy because you're seeing an entire, like, lays to the target exactly where you're shooting, and you can see exactly when you start pulling shots because you'll see the laser flick off the target. So, like, shooting with a laser is actually quite easy. The hard part is moving and being efficient as you shoot through target arrays and stuff. But But this particular device, if you did want to start training and you didn't want to spend a lot of money, yes, it'll get you going. Like, you'll have a laser device that is off and then it turns on when you need to shoot a target. Like, ultimately, that's really all you need to start training the reps and the principles of utilizing a laser as an aiming device. Would I prefer to run something like the Somo gear, which is like an LA5 with the same functionality with an actual IR laser? The answer is yes, I would take that over this. But this is cheaper, and frankly, it wasn't too bad. I may have to test it a little bit more. The pressure switch is kind of jank. Both buttons, from what I can tell, do the same thing. I don't really know why there's two. Once you toggle, IR and then laser, when you go to turn on, they both turn on. Don't really understand why there's two buttons. They both do the same thing, and even there I can see the white light is flashing. So, interesting device for the money, and yes, I could get proper reps on it. In a training environment, I can absolutely do that. So all of those things, I was able to do all of those things, which is what I'm trying to train on the range. I didn't have to have my super expensive MCX with the Raid. I didn't have to be shooting with my panos. I was actually able to get valuable training reps in with this budget night vision setup and with these budget lasers over here. Now the question is, if I was going and doing operational stuff, would I want this stuff over the nicer stuff? And the answer is, of course not. I want the nicer stuff. If I had my way, this is what I would have at all times, or something different even, or maybe the thermal version of these. If I knew I was actually going and doing something, for reals, I would not choose this over this. Like, that would just be lunacy. I would want the nicer equipment, of course. And there is a discourse online that I believe doesn't understand the nuance of this debate of budget versus expensive on both sides, the people who have the expensive stuff and the people that have the budget stuff. But I also think a lot of the discussion is intellectually dishonest, where the people who can only afford this aren't honest about that, and they try to make their spend on this type of night vision device or those types of lasers, they try to twist it into, actually, our gear is just as good as all the fancy gear, and you guys are just snobs. And that's just not the case. I'm someone who's run equipment all the way at the very top. I've also run stuff all the way at the bottom, like this, and I can tell you right now, there is a difference in the nicer gear. That's not to say that you can't get work done with the budget stuff, but let's be honest about the discussion, and let's actually be willing to dive into the nuance of just how much should we expect out of a $300 upper versus a $2,000 or $3,000 MCX. And maybe the $3,000 MCX actually has some major issues, and it shouldn't cost that much, and you are just paying for a name. Like, there's also some other discussion that should happen there. So I would like to see that discussion develop further, and I would like to see the companies that are making the budget gear start making the gear to some sort of standard. I mean, they're not competing for military contracts where there are a lot of standards for different manufacturing and parts and things like that. I would love to see the market for those cheaper accessories get improved, and I do think it has improved compared to stuff that existed a long time ago. I had fun shooting the Sightmark laser. I would have never dreamed of shooting that years ago, but I had fun shooting it tonight, and it worked. So with all that said, that is the most important thing of this video. If this is all you can afford, that's great. Understand that this is all you can afford. You want to get out training, you want to start shooting with night vision, but don't go online and try to argue that this is somehow better than this. Like, nobody's going to believe you, and it's not true. But tonight, I ran around, shot some very good drills. I was able to run some of these guns quite well, and I can guarantee that my performance running this special needs helmet, night vision combo, and a PSA rifle with a YHM and a $200 laser, I would outshoot a lot of the cloner chumpers out there who have expensive gear but never train. Yes, I would outshoot them with this equipment. Now, if I was in a non-flat range environment with weird lighting conditions, and I was outside for months on end, and my laser's now unzeroed, and the battery keeps dying, and the white light flashes when I go to activate, and some other weird things, yeah, it's possible that those guys with the fancy equipment will have an edge on me, and they probably will in that case. But here on the flat range, skill is ultimately what is going to matter, and that's what matters for most of this discussion. So with all that said, I hope this was interesting and helpful. This is a true budget setup. Yes, I could technically make this cheaper by buying a Gen 2 or buying the Modern Warfare 2 night vision setup right here, but this is kind of the minimum that I would recommend for getting out there and training if you're interested in cobbling together your own super budget poor man night vision setup.